I, 31M, had been with Madison, 29F, for 4 years when she dropped this revelation during what I thought was a casual Sunday morning in our Chicago apartment. We'd been living together for 2 years in this beautiful loft in Lincoln Park that cost us $3,200 a month. "I've been thinking," Madison said, not looking up from her sketch pad where she was doodling some fashion designs. "You know I'm the artistic creative one in this relationship, right? That's my contribution. So it doesn't make sense for me to waste mental energy on boring, mundane stuff like bills and maintenance and all that practical nonsense. That's more your thing anyway." I paused my weekend reading of financial news. "More my thing how?" "Well, you're good at numbers and organizing and, left brain stuff. I'm right brain. I bring beauty and inspiration to our life together. We each play to our strengths." Now, Madison wasn't entirely wrong about our personalities. She was a freelance graphic designer who dreamed of starting her own fashion line. I was a financial analyst at a consulting firm downtown. She did have an artistic eye, and I did handle most of the practical stuff. But what Madison conveniently overlooked was exactly how much boring practical stuff I'd been handling for the past 4 years while she focused on her creativity. "You know what?" I said, closing my laptop. "You're absolutely right. You shouldn't waste your creative energy on mundane things. Starting Monday, I'll only handle the creative, inspiring parts of our life together." She looked up, surprised by my easy agreement. "Really? You're not going to give me a lecture about responsibility?" "Nope, your creativity is too valuable to waste on boring stuff." That night, I made a detailed list of every boring, practical thing I'd been handling for the past 4 years. The list was longer than I'd expected. See, Madison had this selective view of our division of labor. Yes, she made pretty Instagram posts of our life together and had decorated our apartment beautifully. She had excellent taste in furniture and could arrange flowers like a professional. But here's what she considered beneath her creative spirit: paying all the bills, electricity, gas, internet, insurance, water, trash, everything. She'd hand me cash for my half, maybe once every 3 months, always about $400, $600 short of what she actually owed. Grocery shopping and meal planning. Madison would Pinterest elaborate dinner ideas, create beautiful mood boards for themed dinner parties, then disappear when it came time to actually shop, prep, or cook. "I'm the idea person," she'd say. "You're better at the execution part." All apartment maintenance. When the dishwasher broke, when we needed the carpets cleaned, when the AC stopped working in the middle of July, when the garbage disposal started making that grinding noise, all me. Madison would just say, dealing with repair people is so draining. They never understand my aesthetic vision anyway." Our taxes. Both of them. Because numbers were my thing, and she couldn't focus on anything that mathematical for more than 5 minutes without getting a headache. Car maintenance for both vehicles. Oil changes, inspections, repairs, registration renewals. She drove a Mini Cooper her parents bought her in college that constantly needed work because she'd ignore every warning light until something actually broke. "Cars are so boring," she'd say. "I just want them to work without having to think about it." Planning and booking everything. Vacations, dinner reservations, doctor appointments, social events, concert tickets. Madison would have vision for where she wanted to go or what she wanted to do. Then leave all the logistics to me. She'd say things like, "I thought of this amazing idea for a weekend in Nashville," and then expect me to research hotels, book flights, make restaurant reservations, and create an itinerary. Managing our shared credit card. I'd been paying the full balance for 2 years while Madison charged her art supplies, coffee dates, Uber rides, impulse purchases, subscription boxes, and her monthly visits to that expensive salon in River North. Handling all communication with our landlord, building management, utility companies, insurance agents, and basically any service provider. Madison claimed phone calls with corporate people gave her anxiety and that she was better at creative communication, not business speak. Managing our shared Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, Adobe Creative Suite, and gym memberships. She used them all constantly, but somehow never remembered when payments were due or when accounts needed updating. Dealing with any kind of paperwork, lease renewals, insurance claims, warranty issues, subscription cancellations. Madison would just hand me stacks of papers and say, "You're so much better at reading all this legal stuff." Even social planning with friends. I'd coordinate group dinners, plan birthday parties, organize weekend trips. Madison would show up and take beautiful photos for Instagram, then get all the credit for organizing such amazing gatherings. Monday morning, I started the experiment. First, I canceled the automatic payments for all utilities, set them all to require manual payment by the account holder. Since Madison's name wasn't on any of them, because she'd never wanted to deal with boring paperwork, she'd need to call and set up her own accounts. Then I removed her as an authorized user on our shared credit card and opened my own individual account. Changed our Wi-Fi password and didn't tell her the new one. Canceled our shared Spotify family plan and created my own individual account. Removed her from my gym membership. She'd been listed as my domestic partner to get the discount. Scheduled the repair guy to fix our leaky faucet for Thursday. Then Tuesday morning I called and canceled. "Sorry, my roommate will need to handle this herself. I only deal with creative, inspiring home improvements now." Unsubscribed her from my Amazon Prime account. Changed the password on our shared Netflix account. By 10 a.m., Madison was texting me. "Why isn't the internet working? Did you pay the bill? What bill? You handle the internet." "Not anymore. That's boring practical stuff. You'll figure it out. You're so resourceful and creative." By noon, "Derek, my Spotify isn't working either." "Oh, I canceled our family plan. Music streaming is very practical and boring. I'm sure you can create something more artistic, like humming your own tunes." By 2 p.m., "I can't order anything on Amazon. Prime memberships are super mundane. Maybe this is the universe telling you to shop more creatively, like at local artisan markets." By evening, she was home with her laptop, sitting in the dark because she hadn't paid the electric bill either. "What the hell, Derek? The power's been shut off." "I know. Isn't it romantic? Very candlelit dinner vibe. So atmospheric and creative. You could do some really moody charcoal sketches by candlelight." "This isn't funny. I have a client deadline tomorrow and my laptop is at 12% battery." The coffee shop on Clark Street has great ambiance and free Wi-Fi. Very inspiring environment for creative work. Plus, they have those vintage Edison bulb fixtures you love. "Derek, I'm serious. Turn the power back on." "I can't. The account isn't in my name anymore. You'll need to call ComEd yourself and set up your own service." "I don't know how to do that." "I'm sure you'll figure it out. You're always saying how good you are at problem solving when it comes to design challenges." That's when she called her mom, Patricia. Now, Patricia was one of those suburban moms who thought her daughter was the next Coco Chanel because Madison made her own Halloween costumes in high school and once sold a painting at a local coffee shop. "Derek is being completely unreasonable," Madison complained on speakerphone. "He's sabotaging my work because he's jealous of my artistic success." "Hi, Patricia," I called from the kitchen, where I was eating leftover pizza by flashlight. Madison decided she's too creative for practical responsibilities, so I'm respecting her artistic vision by letting her handle the boring stuff herself. "That's not what I meant," Madison shrieked. "What did you mean?" I asked innocently. Patricia jumped in with her typical enabling. "Derek, Madison brings beauty and culture to your relationship. That has value too. Not everything can be measured in dollars and cents." "Absolutely. It's so valuable that she can trade it for electricity and Wi-Fi passwords with the utility companies. I'm sure ComEd will be very impressed when she explains her aesthetic contributions to the relationship in lieu of payment." "You're being sarcastic and cruel," Patricia continued. "Madison is an artist. Artists throughout history have needed patrons and support systems." "You're right, Patricia, and now Madison gets to experience the authentic struggling artist lifestyle. No electricity, no internet, very bohemian. Hemingway would be proud." Madison hung up on her mom. Update 1. Madison thought she could prove her point by being extra creative around the apartment. She spent all of Tuesday rearranging furniture, burning her expensive scented candles since we had no electric lights, and making elaborate charcuterie boards from the leftover groceries in our rapidly warming refrigerator. "See," she said, gesturing dramatically at her cheese arrangement. "This is my contribution. I make our life beautiful. I create experiences and memories." "It's gorgeous," I agreed. Very creative use of the last of our food before it spoils. What's your artistic vision for when we run out? You always handle grocery shopping. That's boring practical stuff. I thought you were taking over all of that. She stared at me. I meant you'd still handle the practical things. I just not have to think about them or feel guilty about not contributing financially in traditional ways. But thinking about practical things would drain your creative energy. I can't be responsible for stifling your artistic spirit. Derek, you're being ridiculous. Obviously, I didn't mean you should stop doing everything. What did you mean then? I meant that since I contribute creativity and beauty, I shouldn't feel bad about not splitting everything 50-50 financially. Like my contributions should count too. Okay, so how much should your creativity count for? What's the dollar value of aesthetic contributions? She got flustered. You can't put a price on art? But you want your art to count toward bills, so there must be some exchange rate. How many Instagram posts equal a month of electricity? That's not how it works. Then how does it work? She couldn't answer. Wednesday morning, Madison discovered that our car insurance had lapsed because I'd stopped paying it. Derek, I got pulled over on my way to that coffee shop. The cop says our insurance is canceled. Your insurance is canceled. My insurance is fine. What do you mean, your insurance? Well, car insurance is boring and practical. I didn't want to burden your creative mind with it. So I removed your car from my policy. You'll need to get your own. I don't know how to do that. I'm sure you'll figure it out. You're so innovative and problem-solving oriented. Plus, shopping for insurance can be very creative. You get to compare different companies, coverage options. It's like curating the perfect protection portfolio. That evening, she came home with a stack of papers looking completely overwhelmed. Do you know how complicated insurance is? They want all these documents, my social security card, my driver's license, bank statements, proof of residence. And they asked me about deductibles and coverage limits and liability minimums, and I had no idea what any of it meant. The agent kept using all these technical terms. Sounds super boring and practical. Good thing you don't have to waste your creative energy on understanding it. She threw the papers at me. Just help me. But that would be enabling your dependence on boring practical thinking. I believe in your artistic growth too much to hold you back like that. Derek, I'm serious. I can't drive without insurance. What if I get pulled over again? Maybe you could take the L, very authentic urban artist experience. Plus you could people watch for creative inspiration. The L doesn't go everywhere I need to go. Uber? With what money? My credit card got declined today because apparently you're not paying it anymore. Credit cards are very practical and boring. True artists should live authentically, not depend on credit. Thursday was when things got really interesting. Madison had a big client presentation. Some local boutique wanted her to redesign their branding. She'd been working on it for weeks, and it was potentially her biggest contract yet, worth about $8,000. The morning of the presentation, she was rushing around the apartment in a complete panic. I can't find the printed portfolios. Did you print them? I meant to yesterday, but the power was out, and then I had to deal with the insurance thing, and I couldn't find a place that would print them properly, and can you handle it? Printing is pretty practical and boring. I wouldn't want to interfere with your creative process. Derek, this is important. Your creativity is important. That's why you should handle every aspect of it personally, including the boring printing part. I don't have time. The presentation is in 2 hours. Then you better get creative about finding a solution. She ended up having to give her presentation off her phone because FedEx office was closed by the time she got there, and she didn't have the files properly formatted anyway. The clients wanted physical samples they could touch and feel, not tiny images on a phone screen. She didn't get the contract. That night, she was crying on the couch. You sabotaged my career. I supported your creative independence. Wasn't that what you wanted? I wanted you to handle the boring stuff so I could focus on the important stuff. But you said the boring stuff wasn't important, so why would it matter if it gets done or not? She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. The boring stuff enables the important stuff. Ah, so the boring stuff is actually important? Yes, No, you know what I mean. I really don't. Help me understand. She was quiet for a long time, then said, I thought since I was good at the creative stuff and you were good at the practical stuff, we could just divide it up that way. But you weren't dividing it up. You were dumping it all on me. That's not true. Madison, when's the last time you paid a bill? I give you money. When? Last month I gave you $300. Our monthly expenses are about $4,200. You gave me $300 once in the last 3 months. She got very quiet. Update 2. By Friday, Madison was staying at her friend Jessica's house because our apartment had become unlivable. No power, no internet, no hot water because she hadn't figured out how to pay the gas bill. She texted me, "This is ridiculous. I'm not coming home until you fix everything." I replied, "I'm not fixing anything. That would be doing boring practical work, which stifles creativity. But I found you some inspiration. There's a great documentary about artists who lived in poverty for their craft. Very authentic. Derek, I hate you." That's not very creative language. Maybe try expressing your feelings through interpretive dance. Saturday, Jessica called me. "Derek, what's going on?" "Madison is sleeping on my couch crying about utility bills. Madison decided she's too creative for practical responsibilities. I'm supporting her artistic vision." "That's not. Look, can you just pay the electric bill? This is getting ridiculous." "Jessica, would you ask Picasso to balance checkbooks? Would you make Frida Kahlo schedule cable installations? Madison's creativity is too valuable to waste on mundane tasks." "She's not Picasso, Derek. She's a freelance designer who can't pay her electric bill." "Exactly. She's following in the tradition of struggling artists. Very authentic creative experience." "You're being an asshole." "I'm being supportive of her artistic journey." Jessica hung up on me. But here's where it gets good. Sunday afternoon, Madison came back to the apartment with Jessica and another friend, Riley, clearly planning some kind of intervention. "We need to talk," Madison announced, sitting me down like they were staging a wellness check. "I'm listening." Riley started. "Derek, Madison explained how you're punishing her for being creative." "Actually," I interrupted, pulling out my phone, "let me show you something interesting." I'd spent the weekend going through Madison's social media, her emails that she'd left logged in on our shared iPad, and her browser history. What I found was illuminating. "Madison, remember last month when you said you were too inspired to handle renewing our lease?" "Yeah, paperwork kills my creative flow." "Right. But you had plenty of creative energy to spend 3 hours on Instagram looking at influencer apartments in LA and then another 2 hours researching how much it costs to break a lease in Illinois." Her face went white. "And remember when you said budgeting was too analytical for your artistic brain? But somehow you found the mental energy to calculate exactly how much money you'd save if you moved back in with your parents for 6 months while pursuing your fashion line full time." Jessica and Riley were looking confused. "And my personal favorite," I continued, "was finding your Pinterest board called Single Girl Apartment Aesthetic that you created 3 weeks ago. Very creative mood boarding for someone who's supposedly committed to our shared creative vision." I showed them the board on my phone. It was full of studio apartments, minimalist decor, and pins about living your best single life. The silence was deafening. Madison's mouth opened and closed like a fish. You went through my private stuff. You left it all open on our shared devices. But more importantly, you've been planning your exit strategy while manipulating me into handling all your responsibilities." "That's not what that is." "Then what is it?" "It's just inspiration. Sometimes I like to imagine different life scenarios." "Did your imagination also create the Google search for how to break up with someone you live with from 2 weeks ago?" Riley looked at Madison. "Is this true?" "It's not what it looks like." "What does it look like?" Jessica asked, clearly annoyed. "Because I've been letting you cry on my couch about Derek being controlling, but it sounds like you've been using him as a personal assistant while planning to dump him." "I wasn't planning to dump him." "Then what were you planning?" I asked. Madison started crying. Real tears this time, not the manipulative kind. I thought if I could save up enough money and get established, then I could make it on my own. But everything is so expensive and complicated, and I don't know how to do any of it. So you decided to scam Derek into bankrolling your escape plan? Riley asked. It wasn't a scam. I was going to pay him back eventually. With what money? I asked. You haven't had a steady client in 3 months, and when you do get work, you spend it all on art supplies and coffee shop sessions. I was building my business. By spending $200 a week at Starbucks, I work better in inspiring environments. McDonald's has Wi-Fi too. Jessica was looking at Madison like she'd never seen her before. Wait, back up. How much money do you actually contribute to your household expenses? Madison mumbled something inaudible. I'm sorry, what? Maybe like $500 a month? Out of how much total? Around $4,200, I answered. Riley did the math in her head. So, Derek pays $3,700 and you pay $500. But I contribute other things. Like what? I make our home beautiful. I plan dinner parties. I create ambiance. Madison, Jessica said slowly, how often do you actually cook dinner? I plan the menus. That's not what I asked. Well, Derek is better at the actual cooking part. How often do you grocery shop? Derek handles that because he's more organized. How often do you clean? We have different cleaning styles. Riley was getting increasingly irritated. So you don't cook, you don't clean, you don't shop, you don't pay bills, and you don't handle any practical responsibilities, but you think Derek is being unfair by making you handle your own stuff? You don't understand. Creative work is exhausting. I can't be expected to do boring, mundane tasks when I'm in a creative flow state. Madison, Jessica said, I'm a graphic designer too. I also work freelance, and I pay my own bills, buy my own groceries, and handle my own insurance. Being creative isn't an excuse for being helpless. But you're different. You're more practical. No, I'm an adult. Update 3. Madison's friends left pretty quickly after that revelation. Jessica was particularly pissed because Madison owed her money too. Apparently she'd been borrowing cash for months with stories about me controlling her finances. She told me you monitored all her spending and wouldn't let her have her own credit cards, Jessica said to me as they were leaving. She owes me like $800 from various times I've covered her because she said you wouldn't let her spend money. After they left, Madison tried the full breakdown approach. Derek, please, I'm sorry about the Pinterest board and the planning thing. I was just scared. You know I can't handle practical stuff. I need you. You need me to pay your bills while you prepare to leave me? I wasn't actually going to leave. It was just like a fantasy, like when people plan imaginary vacations they'll never take. People don't research apartment deposits and moving companies for fantasy planning, Madison. Okay, maybe I was thinking about it, but I wasn't going to actually do it. When were you planning to tell me? I don't know. I thought maybe things would get better, or I'd figure out how to handle stuff on my own, or you'd wait until you had enough saved up for my subsidizing your life. She switched tactics. Fine, I'll handle everything myself. I'll pay all the bills and deal with all the boring stuff. With what money and what skills? I'll figure it out. Great, you can start by figuring out how to get the power turned back on. She lasted exactly 1 day. Tuesday evening, she came home defeated. The electric company wants a $400 deposit to restore service because my credit score is terrible. The insurance company wants bank statements and pay stubs. The gas company needs someone to be home between 8 and 5 for a technician visit, and I have client calls scheduled. Sounds challenging. Derek, please, I can't do this alone. Sure you can. You're creative and resourceful. I'm not. I'm not good at any of this. I need help. And there it was, the truth. So you lied about being too creative for practical tasks? I thought if I made it sound artistic, you'd be okay with handling everything. While you planned to dump me, I wasn't really going to. Madison, you researched movers. She broke down completely. Okay, fine. Yes, I was planning to leave, but only because I felt trapped. You were always so competent at everything, and I felt stupid and useless, so I figured I'd just let you handle the stuff I was bad at until I could figure out how to be an adult. And then leave me once I'd subsidized your learning period. It sounds terrible when you put it like that. How would you put it? She couldn't answer. Madison, do you realize that in 4 years of dating, you've never once taken initiative on anything practical? Not once. You've never surprised me by handling something before I had to ask. You've never researched solutions to our problems. You've never taken responsibility for any mistake or oversight. That's not true. Name one time. She was quiet for several minutes. I planned your birthday party last year. You had an idea for my birthday party. I booked the restaurant, sent the invitations, bought the decorations, picked up the cake, and handled the logistics. You showed up and took pictures. I coordinated the group. You made one group text that said Derek's birthday party Saturday at 7. I did everything else. She started crying again. I never meant for it to be like this. What did you mean for it to be like? I thought we were partners. I thought we complemented each other. Partners share responsibilities, Madison. What we had was me being your personal assistant while you took credit for the fun parts. Update 4. Wednesday morning, Madison woke up with a new strategy. She'd apparently stayed up all night creating what she called a relationship contribution analysis. Look, she said, showing me a hand-drawn chart. I've been tracking everything I contribute to our relationship, and it's way more than you think. The chart was something. She'd listed things like aesthetic consultation, $500 a month for choosing throw pillows, social media management, $300 a month for posting pictures of us, emotional labor, $400 a month for being supportive, creative direction, $600 a month for having opinions about our decor, relationship maintenance, $300 a month for planning date nights I paid for, inspirational services, $200 per month for motivating me. So actually, she said triumphantly, I contribute $2,300 a month in value, which means we're almost even. I stared at the chart. Madison, this is insane. It's not insane. Companies pay consultants for this stuff. You bought 3 pillows from Target and called it aesthetic consultation. It's about the vision, the curation, the artistic eye. The pillows were on clearance for $12 each. That doesn't matter. It's about the creative process. Okay, then I'll bill you for my services too. I pulled out my phone and started listing things off. IT support, $150 per hour for every time I fixed your laptop, updated your software, or troubleshot your printer. Car maintenance consulting, $100 per hour. Financial planning, $200 per hour for managing our budget, paying bills, handling taxes. Personal assistant services, $50 per hour for scheduling appointments, making reservations, handling customer service calls. Handyman services, $75 per hour for all furniture assembly, minor repairs, and maintenance. Research and logistics, $40 per hour for planning vacations, finding restaurants, comparing insurance quotes. I did some quick math on my phone calculator. Congratulations, Madison. According to your logic, you owe me approximately $4,800 a month. That's ridiculous. More ridiculous than charging me for throw pillows? She grabbed her chart and stormed off to the bedroom. But the best part was that she forgot to take her iPad with her. And when I looked at it, I saw she had multiple tabs open. One was titled How to Manipulate Boyfriend into Paying More Bills. Another was Financial Gaslighting Techniques. Make partner feel guilty about money. A third was Why should higher earner pay more in relationship? And my personal favorite, How to break up with someone you live with without getting kicked out immediately. She'd been researching manipulation tactics. I took screenshots of everything. When she came back out an hour later, she found me sitting at our kitchen table with printouts of all her browser history. Want to explain these? I asked. Her face went completely white. I can explain. Please do. I was trying to understand relationship dynamics. By Googling financial gaslighting techniques, I wasn't going to actually use any of that stuff. But you did use it. The whole I'm too creative for practical stuff speech, that was your attempt at making me feel guilty for expecting you to contribute equally. No. Madison, you literally Googled how to make partner feel guilty about money 2 days before you gave me that speech. She started crying again, but I was done being manipulated by tears. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You have 2 weeks to find somewhere else to live. I'm not kicking you out immediately because I'm not cruel, but this relationship is over. Derek, please. I'm done, Madison. You've been planning to leave me anyway. Now you just get to do it on a timeline that doesn't involve you using me for months more. But I don't have anywhere to go. Your parents have a house. I can't move back in with my parents. Why not? Because they'll expect me to pay rent and do chores and be responsible. And there it was. The real reason she didn't want to leave. Update 5. Madison moved back in with her parents that weekend. Her dad, Robert, came to help her pack and had some choice words for me. You really couldn't just help her out with some bills? She's an artist. She's 29 years old, Robert, and she was planning to dump me after I'd paid for her life. That's just what Madison told me. I don't believe it. I showed him the screenshots of her browser history. Robert got very quiet, then started packing Madison's stuff faster. Jesus, Madison, he muttered. What the hell were you thinking? Daddy, he's twisting everything. I wasn't actually going to use those websites. You Googled financial gaslighting techniques, Madison. What was I supposed to think? Her mom, Patricia, called me later that week. Madison is devastated. She can't afford to live anywhere on her own. She makes decent money when she actually works, Patricia. She's an artist. Creative people need support. She needs to learn basic life skills, Patricia. I wasn't helping her by enabling her helplessness. You're a cold, cruel man. I'm a man who got tired of being used. She loves you. She loves what I do for her. There's a difference. But here's the kicker. Living with her parents, Madison actually started getting her act together. Turns out, Robert and Patricia weren't as enabling as I thought they would be. They made her pay rent, $800 a month, do chores, handle her own insurance and bills, and contribute to household grocery shopping. We should have done this years ago, Robert told me when he called to apologize a month later. We raised her to think someone else would always handle the hard stuff. Within a month, she'd landed 3 new clients because she suddenly had the time and energy to actually work instead of creating elaborate Pinterest boards about leaving me. She texted me about 6 weeks later. I'm saving money and getting better at handling adult stuff. I'm sorry about how things ended. I know I was using you. I didn't reply immediately. A week later, she sent another text. I don't expect you to take me back or anything. I just wanted you to know that you were right. I needed to learn how to take care of myself. A month after that, I paid Jessica back the money I owed her. I'm actually proud of myself for the first time in years. Meanwhile, I'd started seeing Emma, a project manager at a nonprofit downtown. We met at a coffee shop where she was working on her laptop during her lunch break, handling what looked like a complex budget spreadsheet. Sorry, she said when I asked if I could share her table. I know this looks boring, but I have to get these numbers submitted by 3 p.m. Numbers aren't boring, I said. They're kind of beautiful when they all add up correctly. She looked up at me with surprise. Most people think I'm crazy for saying stuff like that. We started talking, and I found out she was organized, independent, and when we went out for our first coffee date, she insisted on paying for her own drink. I know it's just coffee, she said, but I like to pay my own way. I almost cried. The first time she handled a crisis on her own, her car broke down, and she just called a tow truck, arranged a rental, and dealt with her insurance without asking me to manage any of it. I actually did tear up a little. You okay? She asked, noticing my expression when she told me about it. I'm just not used to dating someone who can handle their own emergencies. She laughed. The bar is really that low? It was subterranean. Emma and I have been together 8 months now. We're planning to move in together next month, and she insisted on running credit checks on both of us first, to make sure there are no surprises. She made her own spreadsheet for our potential shared expenses, and she wanted to discuss contingency plans for if one of us loses our job or gets sick. I know it's not romantic, she said, but I've seen too many friends get screwed over by not having these conversations up front. I almost proposed on the spot. Update 6, the full truth comes out. About 3 months after Madison moved out, her friend Riley called me with some interesting information. Derek, I owe you an apology. Madison finally told me the whole truth about your relationship, and I feel terrible about that intervention thing. What did she tell you? Everything. About the browser history, about planning to leave you, about never paying bills, but also about other stuff she never mentioned before. Apparently, Madison had been lying to her friends about our entire relationship dynamic for years. She told us you made her ask permission for every purchase, Riley continued. She said you monitored her bank account and gave her an allowance like she was a child. That's completely untrue. I know that now. She also told us you refused to let her pursue her art because you were jealous of her creativity. Also untrue. I encouraged her to take on more clients. And she said you were controlling and emotionally abusive, that you made her feel stupid and worthless. This hit me hard because it was the opposite of what I'd been trying to do. I'd been enabling her, not controlling her. Riley, I spent 4 years trying to help her become more independent. I offered to teach her how to manage finances. I suggested we take a budgeting class together. I bought her books about freelance business management. She never mentioned any of that. She made it sound like you were this controlling monster who wouldn't let her grow. What changed? Why is she telling you the truth now? Riley sighed. Because her therapist called her out on it. Apparently, Madison had started seeing a therapist at her parents' insistence. When she told her therapist the same stories she'd been telling her friends, the therapist started asking detailed questions that didn't add up. Like, if Derek was so controlling, why didn't he control her spending on art supplies? If he was monitoring her money, how was she able to borrow cash from friends without him knowing? If he was emotionally abusive, why did all their mutual friends like him? The therapist had helped Madison realize she'd been rewriting history to make herself the victim instead of taking responsibility for her choices. She's been calling all of us to apologize, Riley said. Jessica, me, even some people from her art class who she'd complained to about you. She's been telling everyone the truth about what really happened. How's she doing now? Better, actually. Living with her parents forced her to grow up. She's paying her own bills, handling her own responsibilities, and her business is actually taking off now that she's focused on work instead of whatever she was doing before. I'm glad she's doing better. Derek, can I ask you something? Sure. Why didn't you ever defend yourself when she was telling people those stories about you? I thought about it. Because I figured the truth would come out eventually, and because anyone who knew me well enough to matter would know those stories didn't sound like me. You're a better person than I would have been. I would have been posting screenshots and telling everyone what really happened. That's not who I want to be. Update 7. Madison's apology. About 4 months after our breakup, Madison asked if she could meet me for coffee. I almost said no, but Emma encouraged me to hear her out. Closure might be good for both of you, she said. So I met Madison at the same coffee shop where Emma and I had our first date. The contrast was immediately apparent. Madison looked stressed and tired, but also more real somehow. Less polished, more genuine. Thank you for meeting me, she said. I know you didn't have to. What did you want to talk about? I wanted to apologize. Really apologize, not the fake apologies I was giving before when I was just trying to get you to fix everything. She took a deep breath. I've been in therapy for 3 months, and I'm starting to understand how badly I treated you. Not just the money stuff, but everything. Okay. I want you to know that I know now that you weren't controlling me. You were enabling me, which is almost worse because you were trying to help and I took advantage of it. She was right. And it was surprising to hear her say it. I also know that the stories I told my friends about you were lies. I've been calling everyone to tell them the truth. I know that probably doesn't undo the damage, but I wanted you to know I'm trying to fix it. Why did you lie about me to your friends? She was quiet for a moment. Because it was easier than admitting I was a lazy, spoiled brat who was using my boyfriend as a personal ATM. The honesty was jarring. My therapist says I was creating a narrative where I was the victim, so I didn't have to face the fact that I was the problem. What made you realize you needed to change? Living with my parents. They made me handle all my own stuff, and at first I hated them for it. I kept waiting for someone to rescue me, but no one did, so I had to figure it out myself. She told me about learning to pay bills, handle insurance, manage her business finances, deal with difficult clients. It was terrifying at first, but then I started feeling proud of myself, like actually proud, not just proud of things other people did that I took credit for. How's your business going? Really well, actually. I have steady clients now. I'm making more money than I ever did before, and I'm saving up to get my own apartment. That's great, Madison. I'm happy for you. Derek, I need you to know something else. The reason I was planning to leave you wasn't because you were bad to me. It was because I knew I was bad to you, and I was ashamed of it, but I didn't know how to change. So I figured I'd just escape instead of doing the work. This was probably the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. I'm sorry, she continued. I'm sorry for using you, for lying about you, for manipulating you, and for wasting 4 years of your life. You didn't waste 4 years of my life, Madison. I learned a lot about myself and what I want in a relationship. Are you happy now? I told her about Emma, about how different our relationship was, about feeling like I was dating an actual adult for the first time. She sounds amazing, Madison said, and she seemed to genuinely mean it. You deserve someone who appreciates you. As we were leaving, she said one last thing. I know this is weird to say, but thank you for not enabling me anymore. If you had kept fixing everything for me, I never would have learned how to fix things myself. Final update. It's been a year since Madison and I broke up. Emma and I moved in together 6 months ago, and it's been everything I didn't know I wanted. Our household runs smoothly because we both contribute equally. We split expenses fairly, handle our own responsibilities, and support each other without either of us becoming dependent. Last week, Emma's laptop died the night before a big presentation. Instead of asking me to fix it or handle the situation, she immediately called around to find a place that could recover her files, rented a backup laptop, and stayed up late recreating her presentation. When I asked if she needed help, she said, "I've got it handled, but thank you." I fell in love with her a little more. Madison is doing well from what I hear through mutual friends. She got her own apartment in Wicker Park. Small, but she's handling all her own bills and everything. Her Etsy shop is actually successful now, and she's expanded into doing branding for local businesses. She sent me a card a few months ago. Thank you for not enabling me anymore. I didn't realize how helpless I'd become. I'm actually proud of myself for the first time in years. Her friend Jessica reached out to apologize again recently. I had no idea she was lying about your financial situation. She paid me back everything she owed me, with interest. She said she wanted to make amends for all the time she lied to borrow money. Madison had been telling everyone I was financially controlling her to explain why she could never pay for anything. In reality, she'd been borrowing money from friends while I paid for everything at home. Riley also reached out. She told us you made her ask permission for every purchase. We thought you were one of those guys who monitors their girlfriend's spending. I'm sorry we believed her without asking for your side. The truth was, I'd been begging Madison for years to create a budget with me so we could plan for the future. She'd always say, "Money talk is so unromantic," or "I'm more of a big picture person." Robert, Madison's dad, calls me occasionally to update me on her progress. "I owe you an apology," he said a few months ago. Madison finally told us the truth about how your finances worked. Patricia and I raised her to think someone else would always handle the hard stuff. How's she doing now? Better than she's ever been. We're charging her market rate rent and making her handle all her own bills. She hated us for the first month, but now she calls to tell us about things she figured out on her own. She's proud of herself. That's really good to hear. Derek, can I tell you something? Patricia and I always liked you, but we thought Madison was too good for you because she was artistic and you were just a numbers guy. We were wrong. You were too good for her. She knows it now too. Emma and I are talking about getting engaged. She brought it up first, along with a 5-year financial plan and questions about how we'd handle joint finances, retirement planning, and potential kids. I know it's not romantic to talk about prenups and financial planning, she said, but I want to make sure we're compatible in every way that matters. I've never been more attracted to anyone in my life. My buddy asked me last week if I ever regret how things ended with Madison. Regret not paying for someone who was planning to dump me? Regret not financing the lifestyle of someone who thought I was pathetic? Regret standing up for myself when someone tried to use me as a walking ATM? I looked at my bank account. For the first time in 4 years, I actually had savings. Emma and I were splitting our vacation costs 50-50. She'd researched the hotels, booked the flights, and handled all the logistics herself, then sent me a detailed breakdown of my share. Nah, man, best decision I ever made. Oh, and Madison's last text to me, sent at 2 a.m. about 6 months ago. Derek, I know this is random, but I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what you meant about feeling proud of yourself for handling your own stuff. I fixed my own sink today and I felt like I could conquer the world. I never understood that feeling when you were doing everything for me. Anyway, I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. I didn't reply, but I did smile. Emma asked me about the text when she saw it. Ex-girlfriend thanking me for not enabling her anymore. That's actually really mature of her. Yeah, she's grown up a lot. Do you miss her? I thought about it. I miss who I thought she could become, but I don't miss who she actually was. Emma nodded. That makes sense. And that's the thing. I don't regret the 4 years I spent with Madison because those 4 years taught me exactly what I didn't want in a relationship. They taught me the difference between supporting someone and enabling them. They taught me that love without respect isn't really love at all. Most importantly, they taught me to recognize and appreciate what I have with Emma. A true partnership where we both show up as adults, where we both contribute equally, where neither of us has to carry the other. Edit. For everyone asking if Madison and I are friends now, not really. We're civil when we run into each other, and I genuinely wish her well, but there's no friendship there. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt, even when both people have grown. Edit 2. To people saying I was too harsh by cutting off utilities, Madison had 4 years to learn basic adult skills. I offered to teach her numerous times. She chose to remain helpless because it benefited her. Sometimes people need real consequences to grow up. Edit 3. Yes, Emma and I got engaged last month. She proposed to me with a ring she bought herself and a business plan for our future together. She's perfect.